Hello and welcome to the DVB Newsroom. I'm Nora. Joining me in the studio today is Nyein Chan May, an intersectional feminist, a pro-democracy activist, and co-founder of the German Solidarity with Myanmar. Thank you for joining me. You recently did a Burmese language interview with DVB Youth Voice. In it, you mentioned how you began your activism 13 years ago. What was it that made you want to get involved in politics?
Very first thing is I have to say my family, because I came from a family with political prisoners, and especially my uncle. He raised me to be to get interest in politics, because it is also in Myanmar. I mean, in the 90s and also some 2000 years, it is not possible to get interested and also get involved in politics. But it was my childhood. And in the meantime, and also because I'm a woman, in Myanmar, politics is not a business for women. So this is the old ideology. But my family raised me to tell me politics is everyone's matter. So this is very first impulse. And the second thing is then when I went to university, and I saw that, this is the 2010, 2011, the so-called democratization period. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to get involved in politics. So these are the main, main moments of my life to get involved in politics.
So, what challenges did you face when you first started your activism, and how did you overcome them?
The very first thing is because I'm a woman, and if you are young and if you are a woman, this is generally in Myanmar society, it is really difficult to be taken seriously. So this is the very first battle I have to tackle. I have to fight, and the second thing is you have a voice, but you have a voice that people don't want to listen to. So these are the challenges that I had, and in the meantime, of course, the systematic discrimination in the Myanmar society and also in the political scenes, it is then gender-specific discrimination. So these are the main challenges that I had to face, and these are not okay. I cannot say that I've overcome these challenges. I'm still fighting this battle, and this is a battle that we as female activists we have to fight for. We have to fight for every day. So this battle is not over. These challenges are not over yet, but in the meantime, it's worth to fight for.
You have mentioned that you came from the family of political prisoners. How does this influence your work?
The very first thing is, if you are an activist, and also if you have a family history of being arrested and seeing your family members were tortured and traumatized and oppressed by the dictator, then you know the struggle, and it is also what you have. Not only you hear, not only you learn from book, but also it is the experience. It is the life experience you can have. So this influenced my work. If I talk about, so it is not only about sympathy you learn from the books, but also you have you can relate to it. Of course, you cannot relate to every other person's issues and problems and challenges, but in the meantime, I learned to grow rational empathy through these experiences in my family.
Now you have become one of Myanmar's most outspoken activists abroad. How did you end up in Germany?
Um, this is a story. This is a funny story, because I wanted to study political science since I was a child. And then I have decided to go to Germany to study political science. And it was before the coup. And 6 months later, 6 months later, when I was in Germany and the coup happened, and I then I started my political science studies in Germany. So and this is a childhood dream I wanted to fulfill, to study political science and to contribute to Myanmar's democratization process. It was before the coup. But now, after the coup, I co-founded this organization, German Solidarity Myanmar, an advocacy organization in Germany. And I am also now working as the CEO of the organization during while I am also doing my master's studies.
Since the 2021 military coup, you have raised awareness about the role women have played in the resistance. Can you tell me about the importance of the Nyein protest?
The main protest is not only a protest, it is a symbol of women, brave women who will not be oppressed, not only by the military dictator, but also by the patriarchy in the society. I mentioned at the beginning, the Myanmar society does not take seriously when girls and women would like to talk about politics, want to talk about politics, and it didn't get any better. Also during the also now post coup era, it didn't get any better. That's why I always say, and also my women comrades say, we as women, we have to fight double battles. We have to fight against the military dictatorship. Also, we have to fight against the patriarchy within the resistance movement. So the Tamil protest is an announcement, a loud vocal announcement against this patriarchy. And also it is a statement that we as women, we are standing at the forefront of the resistance movement, and we will fight for the justice, we will fight for our rights till the end. So this is a statement.
Have you seen any tangible outcomes or shifts in public perception as a result of this protest?
I have to say that the photos very visible, as in not tangible but visible reactions were that men, or let's say the people who define themselves as male in him, men, they took photos of themselves like rubbing their heads in tamane and so on. But this is a symbol. This is just a symbol. If you do not do anything in your everyday life for the women, for the girls, in your community, in your environment, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I am not thankful for their expression and their work and so on. But in the meantime, there are a lot of examples in our everyday life that we are experiencing that men who define themselves as feminists and also women who define themselves as feminists, and in the meantime who are still disrespectful to women's rights and also fundamental human rights. So if this is not only about showing pictures and writing posts on Facebook, it is about changing your mindset. It is about unlearning patriarchy, which you have learned since you were a child in the society. So this is about the unlearning process.
I recently interviewed Mananda about feminism and how it relates to democracy. She also mentioned how patriarchy sustains dictatorship. What do you think about this?
Patriarchy is the source of kind of, let's say not all kind, but almost every kind of power, misuse of power. And also patriarchy is toxic. Patriarchy is, I always say patriarchy is also deadly, because you can see that the dictator, the men who oppress their own population, own citizens, they have this patriarchy as their source of power, and it can be deadly. So this is very first thing. And the second thing is gender. I always say that gender specific power abuse. This is also a phenomena which we are seeing not only within the society in everyday life, but also within the families, within relationships, within every kind of, also at your workplace. So this is how patriarchy is rooted inside the society.
Now you identify as an intersectional feminist. Can you explain what that means for those who don't know?
Intersectional feminism is not a very, very new concept. It is just about, the thing is, if we talk about feminism, the Myanmar society thinks that, oh, this is about, we also have, we even don't have proper translation about feminism. People are saying, okay, this is women center is in somehow, or let's say, Amyotami Padana Wada. It is not about that. Feminism is not about excluding men or other marginalized group. It is about including all of them, because we don't want to, because women are half of the population, half of world population, half of the population of the country. So we don't want to exclude them. We don't want to be excluded. We want it to be included. So it's about inclusion. And intersectional feminism is about thinking not only about this binary, not being a woman or not being a man. It's also about thinking about LGBTIQ plus. And also when we think about discrimination, the patterns of discrimination can be varied based on your skin color and your race, your religion, and also your background, and so on and so on. So this kind of, all different kinds of discrimination patterns intersect. And if you think about this intersection, and you will think about the broader spectrum of the feminism. So that's why I define myself as intersectional feminist.
In the op-ed for DVB English News, you wrote about your podcast Atase, which means a waistband of the longi. What has been the response from listeners so far?
It is also interesting that most of the listeners of my podcast are men. And this comes from statistics. And I was very happy because men have to know about feminism. Otherwise, they will think, again, this kind of stereotypical knowledge that, oh, feminism is just about women. They just wanted to prioritize themselves and so on. No, it's not about it. And in the meantime, I also get feedback, like, for example, some people listen to my podcast to know what does it mean, feminism, and also in the meantime, some kind of hidden discrimination patterns. Some people use these patterns not because they wanted to discriminate somebody intentionally, but they did it unintentionally because they learned like that. So they wanted to unlearn this kind of patterns of discrimination. So that's why they listen my podcast. So these are the feedbacks I got. And of course, the setback, for example, is it important? It is really important to do a podcast about feminism, and especially because I also address the power abuse, gender-specific power abuse within the resistance movement. So some people think, and also they give negative feedback like, this is making the image of the revolution ugly. No, it is the opposite, because we wanted to perfect the revolution. We wanted to show the image of revolution that this is a different one. This is a different one from the military dictatorship. We are opposing the dictatorship. We don't have to act like these military dictators. So that's why I am attempting through this podcast.
How do you select topics for your podcast, and what message do you hope listeners take away from it?
The very first thing, let's say about the message, the first one is to think about their actions in daily life. So, for example, that's why I talk about microfeminism. That's why I talk about domestic violence. That's why I talk about sexual harassment, because as I mentioned, we learned it as kids, as children. So this is about time to unlearn the patriarchy. So this is the very first one, to rethink what you have done in your everyday life, and to reflect and not to do it again, or to reflect how to make it better, how to improve it. And in the meantime, how I pick the topic, how I choose the topic. So I do research And also I interact with my listeners. Some listeners send me messages. They would like to listen this topic, and also they have done some issues and so on. They want me to address. So this is how I do. And in the meantime, the production process is really really long because I have to do researches and also some academic text, and then later I have to adapt it to my targeted audience.
To mark the 4th year since the coup on February 1st, you organized a protest outside of the Myanmar embassy in Germany. What was the response from those who attended the protest and those working inside the embassy?
So the protests in front of the embassy in Berlin, Myanmar embassy in Berlin, are our every year action. This is annual protest. And this year was really interesting because we had the Rohingya guests from all over the country, from all over Germany, and also we had guests from neighboring countries. And they were really, really eager to show their will for democracy in Myanmar, even though they are now in freedom and also in secure country, but they still wanted to show that they are together with people in Myanmar, with their family, their friends who are still in Myanmar. So this is the very first reaction I felt. And second thing is the reaction from the people inside the embassy. I saw that when I started to talk, they opened the window and record everything. So, of course, so they heard everything. We talk outside, we shouted outside. But in the meantime, it is not that so not dangerous action, because the military junta in Myanmar is exercising transnational oppression. It means that they are now trying to make lives of the exiled Burmese people harder and harder by not extending the passport, by not renewing the passports, and so on. So the arm of transnational oppression by the military junta in Myanmar is also growing.
The big issue for exiled Myanmar democracy activists is how to extend their visas or renew their passport abroad. So are you raising awareness about this issue? If so, how?
We indeed are raising awareness about this issue. Thus, the very first attempt was that German Solidarity Myanmar published a report about asylum and resettlement of Myanmar refugees in Germany. So that report did have very fundamental knowledge about people in Myanmar who came to Germany and who are seeking for asylum. So we have a research team which has interviewed the asylum seekers and also some success stories and also people who are having passport issues. And from that, we have this report. So this is the very first step. The second step is to make this issue aware to the German authorities. It means our counterparts are, for example, German Federal Foreign Office and also German Ministry of Inner Affairs. So these are the authorities which have to know which kind of challenges that Myanmar citizens are facing abroad, because Myanmar is really far away from Germany, and they don't have any idea what is happening in Myanmar. And also, the Myanmar community is very small, so the attention that we can get is very small. So that's why this is how we have to raise constantly this attention to the issue.
So how do you think international communities or governments could better support Myanmar's exiled activists?
The very first thing is to be aware of what is happening in the country. This is, I say it because if we talk about asylum and resettlement challenges, let me take example from Germany. So if they don't know what is happening in the country, so they cannot judge and decide correctly. They cannot judge and decide properly what Myanmar citizens are needing abroad. This is the very first thing. And the second thing is to think about this is about also intersectionality. To think intersectionally about the situation in Myanmar, because now we have another issue for young people in the age of 18 to 35 years old who are in danger of being conscripted. But this issue is not properly informed yet at the authority. So this is also what we are doing. So inform. This is very important. And very last thing is political will to support Myanmar citizens abroad. The government, for example, now in Germany, the lack of political will is also one of our big challenge. As I said, Myanmar is situated far away from Germany, and also Germany has very little interest, let's say economic interest in Myanmar. So this is very hard to place Myanmar in political agenda of Germany.
Europe has been focused on Ukraine over the last 3 years, and now we see the US seemingly siding with Russia. Will Myanmar continue to be overlooked by the EU and US?
I always say that we feel very neglected. We felt unheard by the international community. It doesn't mean that I am not thankful for the support by the European Union, or I am not thankful for the support which has done by the German government. It's not about it. But in the meantime, we see more potentials where the EU and Germany can also take over to support people in Myanmar and their will for democracy and freedom. This is what we are seeing. But in the meantime, the European Union is now focusing and has to focus on their own defense and security. So it will get, I am very, very sorry to say, but it is not wrong to admit that the issue in Myanmar, it will get, weaker and weaker. The attention will be weaker and weaker. But how do we get Myanmar in the political agenda of the European Union? And this is our duty. This is our duty as activists in exile.
What is it about Myanmar's resistance to the 2021 military coup that inspires you to keep fighting for social justice and democracy in your homeland?
It indeed inspired me to keep fighting for democracy and also social justice. This is not only about because I am a political activist, but also this is the generation this is my generation. Because I was 13 years ago, I was a student activist. Those are friends and also comrades. With them, I fought for our rights for students and so on. And now they are standing at the very forefront. Women, men, LGBTIQ+, all my friends are standing at forefront and they are fighting for democracy and freedom in the country. So this inspires me every day to fight for social justice and also democracy and also freedom for the country.
So before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to tell the Myanmar people?
I do not own the privilege to tell people in Myanmar, keep fighting and so on. I felt it is not proper. It is not appropriate. But I can promise that I am in freedom. I am in a secure country. So I can use my freedom and liberty and voice to amplify the voices of people from Myanmar and also their courage. And I will try it to show the world how courageous and resilient our people are. This is what I can do.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.